Welcome into the Locked On Knicks podcast. The prodigal sons returned to MSG, and they got smacked. A 126-100 victory for the New York Knicks over the Barrett Immanuel Quickley led Toronto Raptors. That sentence, Alex, made me throw up in my mouth a little bit. What didn't? Another near 40-point night for Jalen Brunson. We get into it all now on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Knicks. Your Knicks are winners over the Toronto Raptors 126-100. And today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. And I want to thank all of you for being everydayers, because if you're listening today, it's a Sunday, so you're putting your time in. You can check us out on YouTube. Be sure to hit that notification bell and that subscription button so you never miss an episode. Then hit that auto download function on your podcast platform of choice. But who's shilling for subs? I'm Gavin, Schall, your favorite play-by-play broadcaster's favorite play-by-play broadcaster. He is Alex Wolfe, editor-in-chief of the Strickland, the greatest Knicks website in the whole wide world. And man, is it a good time to cover the New York Knicks. 9-2 now, Alex, in the OG Anunoby era. It was looking a little dicey early in the first quarter. The Knicks had 7 turnovers at the time. Toronto only had 1. The Raptors ripped off a 13-0 run. Immanuel Quickley was looking like a diminutive Magic Johnson. RJ Barrett was looking like Canadian LeBron in transition. The Knicks were a little out of it, and it just sort of felt like they got punched in the mouth early. They took the punch on the chin. They said, all right, bet, and they kicked butt the final 3 quarters of this basketball game.
Yeah, and crazy games from Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson, which, is pretty normal, but a little different for Julius from how he normally goes about things. 18, 16, and 10. So 18 points, 16 boards, 10 assists, gets a triple-double. Ironically, they showed a graphic during the game. This is like beautiful, cyclical, poetic justice, but it was the last Knicks triple-double, or the first Knicks triple-double since Immanuel Quickley had a triple-double against the Raptors last year, which is kind of crazy. So in Quickley's return, he goes, well, let's get all these records set straight and back on, back with current players and all that. 18, 16, and 10 for Randle. Brunson with 38 points, 9 assists, shot a pretty absurd 13 of 23, 5 of 11 from 3, 7 of 7 from the free throw line. I guess the first thing I want to highlight, because this is the easiest way to work in, RJ and Quickley into Brunson and Randle here, is poor RJ Barrett drawing the assignment of Jalen Brunson in this game. I don't know if he specifically requested it or if that was just a call by the coaching staff in Toronto or what, but he had a tough time with Jalen Brunson. And unfortunately, it was a lot of the things that, we would look at when he was on the Knicks and say, oh, he's struggling with this, that, the other. It was pretty much just like a microcosm of all that. And the biggest thing was he was having a hard time getting over screens, and Brunson just punished him over and over and over again on those plays, hitting pull-up threes, getting inside, just basically doing whatever he wanted with minimal intrusion from RJ on that end, which is part of what led to Brunson having such a big game. But Brunson really just, it was another one of those games for him where he was just a maestro. He truly is reaching this point right now where it seems like he could get whatever he wants any night on an NBA floor. He can, break someone down off the dribble. He can, just spot up and make shots off a nice Julius feed, which he did a couple times in this game. He has so much going for him on offense right now that, like, again, this is all like fingers and toes crossed, knock on wood, like everything else. Like, as long as he doesn't get hurt right now, like he's cruising towards like all-star appearance, all NBA, everything else, because it's pretty undeniable. He is one of the best scoring, not just guards, like he's one of the best scoring players in the NBA at this moment. Like he might, there's a case you could make in like the pound for pound category that he is the best scorer in the NBA at the moment.
Yeah, he was extraordinary in this game. My preseason bold prediction of him looking top, getting a vote for top 5 or was it I think it was finishing top 5 MVP. I got a little too aggressive in those preseason predictions. I'm going to admit it. That's not going to happen, but it's looking a little bit less insane by the day. I thought those two were. Oh, well, actually, before I get to that, to illuminate why Toronto put RJ on Brunson, because our buddy Benji pointed this out, and I thought it was smart. What Toronto was trying to do with that is they said, all right, RJ, you're going to guard him. You're going to do your best. Jalen Brunson is probably going to torch us anyways, but this means he has to cover you in transition, and that's how the Raptors built this pretty nice lead on the Knicks early. It's because the Knicks were super duper sloppy, and Randall and Brunson were kind of the key culprits in that. Brunson had these 2 straight passing turnovers early in the game, and Randall finished the game with 7 of them. And Toronto just got out and running it over and over again. You saw RJ get transition layup, transition layup, transition layup. And it's because Brunson was matched up with him, and Brunson just can't really do much physically in that matchup. And Randall and Hartenstein didn't really get back. It's more so on Randall because he's the guy on the perimeter. And that's how Toronto got out to this early lead. And I thought it was a playoff-like approach to this game from Toronto early. And I almost wonder if in the pregame speech, like their head coach, Darko Rajakovic, I butchered his name. I'm sorry about that. He probably came in and said, "Hey guys, like let's go win this for RJ and IQ. Let's go up and and show them what they're missing." And it felt like those two came out trying to rip the Knicks heads off, and the entire Raptors team. It was kind of a piranha-esque feeding frenzy early in this ball game. And I say that to set the scene for what Randall and Brunson did next, because they kind of took the hit and they said, all right, that was cute. And then Brunson just started cooking everybody. And it didn't really matter who he got on a switch. It was like he started off 3 for 3 for 8 points, 2 threes early. The Raptors had that 13-0 run. Brunson said enough, hit like a righty layup, hit like a late, like off beautiful passing, hit like the equivalent of like a 4-point shot, like wherever the Knicks have that 4-point line in their Tarrytown facility. That's where Brunson was shooting from. He drained that. And then I just thought, like you started getting into it, Alex. I thought this was a brilliant passing game from Julius Randle. I thought it was like, I put the tweet out there, about as proactive as I've ever seen him as a passer. And yes, the 7 turnovers were bad. Yes, the transition defense was bad. I thought the ball movement from him, and at times, sometimes it was really quick decision making. Other times it was patience, like that play where he just sat on it for 4 seconds, knowing he had 2 on him, waiting for OG to cut wide open to the rim for a dunk. Like, it was just a masterclass. It was like, I put in my notes, like, pick your Andre. It was like you put Andre Miller or Andre Iguodala's brain in Julius Randle's body. Offensively, it was such a good performance, and I don't think I've ever seen him pass the ball as well as he had this season. And this game, despite all the turnovers, was kind of the cherry on top of that for me.
Yeah, I think it was just like, in a night where there was so much NFL football going on too, I thought that it was very quarterback-like, the way that he went about things. Like, it was like he wasn't taking his first read every time. There's a number of times where he could have, he was driving in and could have just kicked it to, the person in the corner, but instead waited the extra half beat, waited for someone to say, oh no, he's passing to the corner, and then go, I'll kick it to the front of the 3-point line, kick it up here above the break and get someone a wide open shot rather than just an open shot. And then, like, even late in the game, there was a really great sequence, pardon me, where he got an offensive rebound and then just kind of waited for the entire defense to collapse on him, because he knew it was going to happen. Because he's like, well, I'm Julius Randle. I'm a bull in a china shop down here. And I know that, there's all these defenders are going to come and try to strip the ball away from me or whatever. And he just kind of sat there, and he was just outside the key. So there wasn't going to be a violation called or anything. And he just sat there for a couple seconds, like waited. It was almost like he was counting like 1, 2, 3. Okay, ready to go. And then OG Anunoby just comes crashing in the second that like third defender came over to him. He makes a perfect little pocket past him, and OG goes up for that nice vertical 2-handed dunk that he's kind of making like his signature play, driving to the hoop with the Knicks. It was really awesome by him. I thought this was maybe his best game of the season. I know that he's had better scoring outputs, but even the scoring, like he shot 7 of 13, and it kind of seemed like he knew that he could have basically whatever he wanted scoring the ball, but he really prioritized, like, I'm a great passer. when
Well,
I'm
just to
like
put a fine
locked
point
in.
on that out, he had 15 of his 18 were in the first half. Like he basically didn't feel like he had to score in the second half.
Exactly, yeah, and just went out there and just had fun and tried to get other people involved, and it paid off huge. I mean, he had especially in the second half, it was a wonder to watch. It was great seeing him play this way. So I hope he channels this more often. Like I think this is maybe the best version of Julius. Like I know that sometimes he wants to zero in on the scoring, and sometimes the team needs it, like especially when Brunson was out, it was clear that he was like, I'm the scorer now, like I need to like do this for this team for us to win these games. And that's the case sometimes. And even with Brunson, sometimes I think that he has a good sense of like, okay, Brunson's off today, I need to take on more scoring load. But I hope that going forward he plays like this as much as he can, because I think he did such a good job of not just getting like Brunson going, which I mean, for as much as Brunson can get himself going, everybody loves a couple easy, you know, spot up 3-point attempts every once
Yeah.
in a while. But
And Julius was hunting those out, right? Like
yeah,
he was actively every time he had the ball, he's like, "Where's Jalen? Where's Jalen?" And sometimes they weren't even easy. But to your point, like he totally recognized, all right, Jalen's cooking right now, and he does the same thing with Dante now, where he
mhm,
just finds a way to get them shots, like even if they're lightly contested, and he throws the ball with like such velocity on it. It's like the message is like, you better shoot this.
yep. Yeah, and he hit Dante. He was hitting. I think he had one of the ones to Precious. Obviously, is really good at reading the OG cuts as well now, and he's become one of the main guys that's usually looking for that OG cut and waiting for that to materialize. It's just it's very aesthetically pleasing basketball from Julius right now, and
Yeah.
I hope he keeps it up.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I think it's going to be an inevitability, and I think it's even more so in the playoffs because we're seeing teams like the double teaming him and like the light doubles. That was something that would get mixed in by certain coaches. Like Ty Lue and the Clippers love doing that. Nate McMillan and the Hawks, of course, because it worked in that playoff series, love doing that. Jason Kidd and the Mavs love doing that every single time they play the Knicks. And other coaches would kind of be like, all right, it's the regular season. Like we don't want to get out of our base shell. Let's just play him normally. But since the trade, Alex, like almost every single night, you're seeing teams throw either doubles or soft doubles or double and then recover at him and try to confuse him. And it was interesting to watch tonight because you saw the lows, you saw the 7 turnovers, and you saw all the plays where he was patient. And like you mentioned, we both mentioned the one to OG. He also had one where he hit Dante, like just cutting on IQ for for an easy layup. Like it was getting wide open shots. And I think even against the better defenses in the league, like they play the Heat in the playoffs. Of course, Miami is going to do that. I think Julius is getting to a point where you're going to have to live with the turnovers, and Tom Thibodeau is going to have to ensure that he gets back on defense so those don't murder you. But he's going to make the right play more often than not. And I think right now against the Knicks starting lineup that's been so dominant, maybe better teams have different options. That feels like the only solution because they're counting on the fact that no one else is going to be able to beat them. And the Knicks are getting such overwhelming offense from Brunson and just enough from both DiVincenzo and OG that it's all working. And if any of that slips, like, yeah, things could get iffy. But right now, like there's just not really a solution to the Knicks starting lineup. And I think a lot of that is because Julius is doing a better job handling those double teams.
Yeah, for sure. And Gavin, I think we've glossed over something so far that is an unfortunate thing that came out of this game, which is Isaiah Hartenstein turns his ankle or something, has a quote sore ankle. But Precious Achiuwa did have a really awesome 25 minutes in this game otherwise. But Gavin, there is a chance that maybe the Knicks will have to, put out an application for a new center to come in and fill in some minutes. And if they want to do that, I think our good friends at LinkedIn could give them a good opportunity to find someone for that. At the start of the new year, every small business owner is asking themselves the same question. What's the one move I can make that'll take my business to the next level in 2024? LinkedIn Jobs knows that your success all depends on the team you surround yourself with. That's why LinkedIn Jobs has created the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates, and it's so easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. And, the Knicks are going through this right now, right? They're seeing how achieving goals in 2024 is all about having the right team member to help you do that. That's the OG Anunoby trade did that for them. If you've got a small business, you might need that right team member to add to your team to take you to a new level in 2024. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn also knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire, so they're trying to make that easy for you. Thankfully, with LinkedIn, the process is intuitive, quick, and easy. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, Gavin, we're back in going through this Knicks game. And, I do want to keep talking about all the positives that came out of this game. But unfortunately, I think a big storyline out of this one is that Isaiah Hartenstein left the game in the second half with what is being described, I think was initially being described as a sprained ankle. And then Fred Katz came back later and was like, no, never mind. They're calling it a sore ankle. So whatever. His ankle hurts. And he wasn't able to play the second half, which is not great because they're already dealing with the center whose ankle hurts, who can't play the second half of this season at the moment until hopefully, a month or two from now in Mitchell Robinson. And Hartenstein has been a huge, huge part of what the Knicks have been doing. He managed to get 23 minutes into this game before he had to duck out. He dealt with a little bit of foul trouble early and then obviously had whatever happened with his ankle happen at some point in the second quarter, maybe, or in the beginning of the third, and then did not see the court the rest of the game. Precious Achiuwa did pretty good in relief. 18 points, 11 boards, had a block. He shot 9 of 10 from the field. But a lot of his damage was done in garbage time. It seemed like the Raptors just decided to stop tagging him for whatever reason and said, I don't know, Precious, whatever. We want you to have your moment. Everybody from the trade is having their moment tonight. So go ahead. And he just, it started off with him just capitalizing on pick and roll and offensive rebounds and ended with him just like getting the ball at the 3-point line and just being given a free lane to drive in and dunk for some reason. So I don't know how much we could totally take away from the 18-point outburst here. But the loss of Hartenstein, if it's for more than a game or two, seems like something that the Knicks are unfortunately going to have to address like right away.
Yeah, it is extremely concerning, especially when in like the next week or so, you have Nikola Jokic and Bam Adebayo on the schedule. So I maybe call me a pessimist. Not a great matchup for 6'8" Precious Achiuwa with either of those guys, particularly Nikola Jokic, Nick Claxton, and Brooklyn. Also not amazing, but something that he could theoretically handle. But yeah, it's concerning, Alex. And we said it after Brunson and Randall, and maybe even more so than Randall. Hartenstein was the guy this Knicks team just could not afford to get hurt. And you wonder if they brush off Jericho Sims, if they try to sign someone, if they make a last gasp trade for your guy Baji over in Portland to get some rim protection. But it's concerning if he has to miss a substantial amount of time. If he misses the next 3 games, the Knicks can survive, and maybe that means they go 1-2 in those 3 games. Maybe they would have gone 1-2 with Hartenstein with the number of minutes that he was playing. Like I'm cribbing this point from our guy Jonathan Macri, but like not the worst thing if he gets a little bit of a rest before the All-Star break and like doesn't lead to a more extreme injury because he's rushing back and Tibbs has him out there for 40 minutes. It's not good is the thesis of this. What is encouraging though is even if a lot of it wasn't garbage time, was nice to see Precious Achiuwa have far and away his best game as a Knick. I had it at maybe I might be a little short in the rebounds, but I had 14 points and 6 rebounds for him, I think it was 14 and 6 rebounds for him in the fourth quarter. Oh no, I had 14 and 7 for him in the fourth quarter, which would translate to a Wilt Chamberlain-esque 56 points and 28 rebounds over a full game. I don't know how sustainable that was, but I liked everything he was doing off the dribble. He was finishing, I thought, like when this game wasn't in garbage time, a lot better around the rim than we've seen from him. And I think part of that is because Toronto likes a certain type of big man, and they're usually super long and super skinny. And that's probably more comfortable for Precious than facing like a 280-pound Jonas Valanciunas-esque behemoth, which I feel like the Knicks have seen a lot of recently. The biggest thing for me was defensively. I thought the lineup they had to start the fourth quarter, where it was Deuce, Grimes, OG. Who was the oh no, it was Hart, OG, and Precious. And then Brunson in Deuce's place for a bit of it was amazing, and just the switchability of that lineup. And I hope that's what the Knicks lean into, and playing almost a Raptors-esque style defense if Hartenstein has to miss significant time. But the single biggest thing the Knicks will lose, Alex, is rebounding. And they were up 40-14 in rebounds at one point in this game. And that's more of an indictment on Toronto than anything else, because you should not have 14 rebounds midway through the third quarter. I don't care how many turnovers and how poorly the other team is shooting. But I think that's going to hurt the Knicks these next few games, particularly against Denver and Miami.
Yeah, I mean, and what's crazy, the Knicks managed to even broaden that deficit by the end of the game, 61-31. They out-rebounded Toronto in this game, which just doesn't even seem real on paper. But I guess goes a long way towards explaining how they were able to make up for 22 turnovers to the Raptors only having like 10. So, it's all the little things that add up throughout the game. But yeah, when you said 56 points and 28 rebound pace, I had an intrusive thought where I couldn't help think, like, I wonder if that's what Jokic will get if the Knicks start Precious against him this week.
Yeah, if they sit him in the fourth quarter, he might be stopped at that.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, it's concerning. I was out with my buddy Schwinny Poo and some of my Strickland pals last night watching this game, and immediately Bismack Biyombo's name came up, where it was like, he's a free agent now. He got released by Memphis like a week and a half ago. He might be a really good guy to bring in, just even on, like, if the Knicks are able to, like, a 10-day contract or something, just be like, hey, we at least need you for this long, maybe a little longer, maybe even you could sign 2 10 days, I think, before you're required to sign someone for the rest of the season. So maybe take advantage of that and say, hey, like you said, there's 20 days left until the All-Star break, roughly. Let's give Hartenstein a little bit of time off, a little time to recharge and get that ankle right and whatever. And, Biyombo can come in and just kind of provide at least a little bit of what he was doing in the rim protection category, give Precious some more time to shine as that backup 5, or try to still address that position of need in trade, whether it's getting someone just kind of thrown in with one of the ball handlers that the Knicks are looking at right now, or whatever the case may be. I think it's definitely something that they need to address. You can't, with how reliant this team has been on the rebounding and the defense from Hartenstein lately. Like, this game was fun and they were able to absorb it because the game was basically already over by late third quarter anyway. So, they were able to just have fun and let Precious cook off the dribble and all this other stuff in the fourth quarter. But in a tight game, they would have been in a lot of trouble in this one down the stretch if things were not kind of already out of hand by the time that Hartenstein saw himself out of the game. To your point, though, maybe they do just need to, if this is the personnel they've got for the next 2 games, it might require Tibbs to adjust things for the first time in a while and actually play a different way, because he doesn't have his 2 favorite centers as far as the guys that, play the game the way that he wants it played. It could be beneficial even to finally give a look, if they don't get a free agent in here by the Nets game, to get a free agent to get a look at the OG and Julius look at the 4-5 and just finally, like, give that a little bit of time to shine. So we'll see how they adjust, but if Hartenstein has to miss any time at all, it's definitely going to be less than advantageous for the Knicks. Let's put it that way. But Gavin, we still got some positive stuff to talk about, because there were a lot of other great performances. Dante DiVincenzo scored like a point a minute in this game. OG Anunoby, we haven't really talked about yet, but had a really good game against his former team. Little concern here and there, like Deuce McBride, I think, had one of his weaker showings in that backup point guard role since he's had to do it since the trade. So that kind of the cruel irony of doing that when the guys that got traded came back to town. But that's all to talk about in the next segment. But first, you want to let everybody know about our good friends over at BetterHelp.
Yeah, Alex, this show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Around New Year's, we get obsessed with how to change ourselves instead of just expanding on what we're already doing right. Maybe you finally organize one part of your space and you want to tackle another, or maybe you're taking supplements every morning. Now you want to actually eat breakfast too. Therapy helps you find your strengths so you can ditch extreme resolutions and make changes that really stick. Boy, oh boy, do I know about this. I'm guilty almost every single year. This is the first year in a while. I haven't done it, Alex. of setting a way too ambitious resolution and just never getting there versus setting something reasonable for myself. And I think the point of doing it that way is you actually have to stick to it if it's something that's totally reasonable instead of something that's unrealistic. The great thing about therapy is it helps you figure out what is realistic for you and what is something that is actually like being kind to yourself to go and do. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire, get matched with a licensed therapist, and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Celebrate the progress you've already made. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA.
And today's show is also brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. The NFL playoffs are in full force right now. Some fun playoff games, especially last night. It was cool. I was out watching Knicks game and then got to watch a great finish to the Packers and 49ers game as well. And there is plenty of time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use, and there's so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays. You can find bets in the new Explore tab, and you can make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, which is the best way to find popular parlays. And I always pump up those same-game parlays. They're my favorite. I've been doing them lately for Knicks games. It's like it's the team the best. So if you were ever going to make an outlandish parlay and potentially hit for a huge amount of money, it would be with the Knicks as the team that you're doing it with. If you're like, man, I just got this feeling Julius is going to have a triple-double tonight. Let me put him down for like 6+ assists, 20+ points, 10+ rebounds, whatever, and see where things go. You could do that, plus add a few other legs to it and potentially turn a $5 bet into like $500, $1,000. If you played a little closer to the vest, maybe $100, whatever. But it's a great opportunity to potentially multiply your money by quite a bit. So if you want to give that a shot and make the Knicks games just even a little more interesting than they are with them playing as well as they are, visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, they're the official partner of the NFL. All right, Gavin, we're back in, continuing to talk about this big win for the Knicks. Kind of a statement win, honestly. This is a lot of fun. I don't know if we've really quite vocalized that yet, but
Yeah, can I ask how'd you feel? Just like, did you get emotional? Like, how'd you feel watching the game? Like, especially at the start of it.
I definitely didn't feel emotional. I mean, I was jokingly the whole time, just being like, "Oh, that bum," like about Quickley and like RJ, whatever. Um, so I will say we were in a bar where we didn't have the MSG audio going, so we couldn't hear like the roar of the crowd for Quickley and RJ or whatever. We had to like check that out on our phones later or whatever. So that if I had heard that part, that probably would have made me choke up a little bit because it's like those guys were. I mean, you and I covered them their entire careers. It's crazy to think like they're like some of our first guys that we can now say, other than like Kevin Knox, like we like covered their whole career as a Knick, So
did you hear Julius's post game comments? Because I guess you might not have been able to.
I saw them. I saw that he said
you.
like that he's always going to be rooting for them. He's always going to be keeping up with them, whatever. That they're like his family and all this other stuff.
That got me a little like hearing that live. That was like it was well said. It was really nice.
Yeah. So I mean, it was an interesting game. I mean, it also just I enjoyed the fact that it felt vindicating that it's like, okay, yeah, the Knicks won the trade. Like the Knicks are playing like a borderline like contending level team now with OG, and the way that they're able to play ball now with him on the team. And I understand the Raptors are like sort of diving into like a rebuild-esque or like reload mode, whatever, right now, but I mean, they've been playing really well lately. Like since they got Quickley and RJ, they've not been slouches. It's not like they're like the Pistons out there or something that it's just like a guaranteed win or anything. So from that perspective, it felt really good. I thought OG had a really good game too. So to just kind of add to the like Knicks winning the trade thing, on top of the fact that like RJ and Quickley, they had pretty good counting stats, but I would say that neither of them had offered the best of what they have against the Knicks.
I thought Quickley's passing was maybe the exception. I thought his passing. He had
true.
9 assists in the first 18 minutes he was on the court.
That's true. And early on he looked fantastic. Like the passing was really, really next level, which maybe was the final like middle finger to Tibbs to be like, hey, by the way,
not a point guard, not a point guard.
But yeah, OG I thought was really good. I thought this was maybe his most impactful defensive game as a Knicks so far. He was just kind of like all over the place. Got a Mitch-esque block on an RJ3. Got a nice strip on Scotty Barnes in the lane. And then offensively, he kind of showed he doesn't need the 3 to make an impact, which was nice. Like, I mean, he's kind of shown that otherwise, but he hasn't really had a game yet, I don't think, where he just like straight up hasn't made a 3 and has also like had a big impact offensively, but just like made line drive runs to the hoop. Like as long as you can get him, he's to make another football reference because there's a lot of football going on, but like if you treat him almost like a running back and you can just be like, let's get this guy a lane and get him going downhill towards the hoop, he's dangerous. He's very dangerous. And you just can't be like, hey, go sauce this guy up. Because he just can't. He falls over. He literally
you got to run the RJ package for him, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
A lot of the same stuff.
Yeah, run him the pistol, get him set up that way. But yeah, I thought that he had a fantastic game, just kind of getting towards the hoop and making those cuts and everything else. And I thought that for as much as it was great seeing the old guys come back, this was one of his most impactful games as the new guy on the Knicks.
Yeah, Benji put out a clip of it, but the play you're talking about where he closed from the paint to RJ, and then he had the opposite too, where he was guarding someone on the wing, but he was just watching, and like cut into the lane at the last second to block Jontay Porter. I broadcast, this is a slight tangent, but stick with me here. I broadcast like more volleyball this year than I ever have in my life, and really like kind of fell in love with it. I was like, oh, it's such a fun sport. And what stands out to me is like there's always like, especially in girls volleyball, there's a position called the libero, and they're basically just, it's like a defense only spot, and they can play a little offense, but the rules are confusing. Anyways, but they're just flying all around the court to like dig out a loose ball and like slid the back corner and then like cover 20 feet to get to another ball. That's what OG reminds me of, where he's almost like, I'll throw in a third sport, like in football, like you'll have an even amount of guys and say, all right, this guy's automatic quarterback. OG's like automatic defense. Like he is just covering up multiple spots. And even when the Knicks are playing man, it's almost as if he's playing a one-man zone. And he's like, all right, I put out a fire here. I put out a fire here. I put out a fire here. My final analogy will be Tom Holland Spider-Man in Infinity War, where he's just like, I got you. I got you. I got you. I got you. He's an incredible defensive player, and I'm with you. Some of the bully ball drives after he got off to a pretty slow start to this game were just a joy to see. He finally hit a step back too, which he's been taking and awkwardly missing. It didn't look all that smooth, but it was really good. Had this beautiful strip off RJ's leg that would have infuriated me if RJ was on the Knicks and OG was on the Raptors. So it was nice to be on the other end of that. And I just thought, I mean, the defense to start the fourth quarter when the Raptors were sort of making a mini run were amazing. And that was partially OG. That was definitely Precious switching. The interesting thing to me about that was Grimes being on the floor over DiVincenzo. And we're seeing this thing now, Alex, where DiVincenzo will just be cooking for like 2.5 quarters. And tonight was obviously an example of that. He had 17 points in 20 minutes. And that was only going 2 for 7 from 3. He went 5 for 5 from 2-point range. We continue to note that for him, doing such a nice job driving closeouts, cutting to the basket. Like there was this great play where Brunson drew 2, kicked that to DiVincenzo. I think it might have been RJ, like this out of control closeout on him, and DiVincenzo just blew right by him and got to the lane for a layup. And yet DiVincenzo, despite like absolutely cooking, is not finishing games sometimes. A lot of times is at the expense of Josh Hart. But tonight I actually liked it because Quentin Grimes is out there in the midst of a terrible shooting night, and he deserved it because he totally shut the water off on Immanuel Quickley and guarded him in a way that DiVincenzo is just not quite capable of.
Yeah, for sure. I thought the Grimes had, this was the rare time lately where I think that, you could absorb him not shooting well because he just managed to make up for it on the defensive end. I think, unfortunately, lately we've been seeing where it's like, dude, like you're not quite playing up to the level on the defensive end to make up for like shooting 0 for 4 or whatever right now. Like this, you need to, figure things out. But he played really well. I thought Hart played really well and had a good game. Again, just pushing things in transition, 10 points, 9 boards. And shot 2 or 3 from 3. Like, dude, shoot, please. Like he does it. He likes that the opposite corner of where OG is like completely automatic. If you're looking at the hoop, the left corner is OG's. The right corner is Josh Hart's. Like, he actually shoots pretty well from over there. I don't know the exact numbers of how he shoots from that corner, but anecdotally, like, that seems to be his spot. Like, I wish he would shoot from there more often. So he had a good game as well, and managed to do some good things over there. I do want to real quick highlight, just before we sign off, Gavin. Unfortunately, this was not a great Deuce McBride game. It really stood out. I mean, he got lit up by Dennis Schroeder on the when Deuce was on offense and Schroeder was on defense. And it was clear that at a certain point, like in I think it was the second or third quarter, Julius was just trying to like they were giving the ball to Julius to bring up the floor with the bench unit, and he was trying to give it to Deuce and be like, "Here you go, man. Like, set something up. Let's run a play." And Deuce just couldn't even. He barely got it over midcourt the one time, and got just run out of bounds by Dennis Schroeder by the fact that he couldn't get around him and couldn't turn that corner. And like, I know Schroeder's a decent defender, but he's not like all world or anything. Like, he should not be bothering you that much that you wouldn't be able to at least like just turn the corner on him. And it did not look good. I mean, I think that this game really underscored the fact that the Knicks need that other ball handler. And then, I mean, I'll introduce this too before throwing at you to kind of wrap things up, Gavin. But there's a hilarious quote from Bruce Brown after the game. Whether you believe that he's that guy or not, I don't necessarily buy him as a ball handler. I think he's kind of revived his career as being more of a big man in a small's body, much like Josh Hart. But he, after the game, was asked directly about playing for Tibbs, I guess, and goes, "I'm a dog. I could do just about whatever Tibbs needs. I play extremely hard on both ends. I'm the type of player he likes. Every time we play Tibbs, I go up and shake his hand because of what he's done. Nothing but respect. I love New York." He hit like every buzzword.
I don't know if I've ever heard like such an unabashed like ask to be traded. Maybe since Eric Bledsoe. This was while I was in college, 8 blocks away. So it stands in my mind when he very famously tweeted out, "I don't want to be here." But that was such an FU to Toronto. And I know it's pretty common knowledge that he's not really there to stay, but he's like, "Yeah, man, I like it here. I could get used to this. You want to execute it tonight? I'll move in right now." I don't, I thought
he's like sitting there on Zillow. Like, yeah. I've already got a few apartments in mind. You want to see this one? Look at this deck. It looks great.
Julius said I could stay in his guest house for a few weeks. It's no big deal. I'll come in. I don't need to play a ton of minutes. I just don't make me go back to Canada. I liked Indiana more somehow. It was great. That was fantastic. But yeah, I'm with you on Deuce. I mean, those 2 possessions to end the half, like it was like another, like even the one before he dribbled it off his leg. Like I know you're getting to this, but it took him like 14 seconds to do anything. And it gave Toronto, I mean, what was the lead to start? It was like 12 points to start the fourth quarter. Maybe it's 14 points to start the fourth quarter. And they had another shot to make it like 11 or 12 to start the fourth, because Deuce just completely self-destructed. And it was another night where in a game, like, I mean, let's look, the Knicks win by 26. Jalen Brunson plays 35 minutes, which isn't terrible, but that's a lot in a game that was, for the most part, like not close from the middle of the third quarter on. So the Knicks clearly need a backup point guard. It could be someone as good as a DeJounte Murray, someone as good as a Malcolm Brogdon, or even just a Tyus Jones, even if it's just to hold the fort for the rest of the season. But in the playoffs, those minutes are going to murder the Knicks. You're going to see games that the Knicks should have won by 3, and they're going to lose by 10 because Deuce is going to be out there for 8 minutes, and it's going to be a minus 14. And there's going to be the stray night where he hits 3 threes, and it looks good, but he's ultimately like, he's a really nice secondary ball handler who potentially is like a lights out shooter. And that's awesome at 3 years, $13 million, but he's not a point guard, Alex. I think we've reached that conclusion sufficiently, and I hope the Knicks have as well. I want to end the show just because we kind of skipped over it a little bit, highlighting Jalen Brunson's like last 8 games. He had 31 against the Bulls, 29 against the Sixers, 33 against the Wizards, only had 12 against the Blazers in a game the Knicks won by like 40, so he didn't need to play, only played 26 minutes. Then 30 against Dallas, 30 against Houston, 41 against Washington, 38 against Toronto in those games. 4 threes, 4 threes, 4 threes, 1 against the Blazers, 2 against the Mavs, 4 threes, 2 threes, 5 threes. He has combined the like absolutely cooking from distance that we saw early in the season with like the peak of last year where he was just totally unguardable, a jitterbug like to the extreme. Doesn't matter if there's 2-3 guys on him, just finds a way to get to the rim. draw 2-3 guys, either finish or create an easy shot for someone else. This is the best he's ever played in his life, maybe outside of the end of the Heat series. I'm just enjoying the ride right now. The Knicks have a bona fide superstar, and I don't think we can emphasize that enough on this podcast.
Yep, and that's as good a note as any to end on. So we'll be back with more game coverage this week for you guys. Also, maybe a little more trade primer, a little more crossover action with one of our fellow Locked On hosts to try to find that secondary ball handler that we're looking for so much. But until next time, thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to y'all soon. Peace out, everybody.